everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of most awaited L&D Next Rewired Leadership Tales, exclusively curated by the Economic Times HR World in association with LinkedIn. My name is Saumya from the ETHR Worlds team, and as you all know me by now, I'm going to be your host for this series of roller coaster conversations. The Great Reshuffle has created workplace change, unlike anything we have seen so far. Living and working through the pandemic and its aftermath prompted individuals to prioritize flexibility and fulfillment, and organizations to seek new models that better cater to success. LinkedIn's 2022 Workplace Learning Report reveals change is the new constant. Amid a storm of L&D priorities, skills building and skills-based planning definitely stands out. So with this, we bring to you the two powerhouse leaders. So yes, please welcome Sumit, Executive Vice President and Global Head, Capability Development Learning, Firstsource, and Samir Agarwal, India Head Learning and Engagement, LinkedIn. Hi Samir, hi Sumit.
Hello Saumya, hi.
I am really excited to get rolling on this conversation. Sumit, I'm going to come to you. Owing to this fluctuating work and workplace norms, leaders are focusing on upskilling and reskilling talent as a strategic response to the great reshuffle. Why has the employee skilling agenda become so important now?
I think it'll not be accurate for any of us to say with full confidence that this is where things are going to settle. Employees are turning into gig workers from full-time workers, and some employees are in a hybrid mode, some are in a full-time work mode. We don't know where all of this will land. Different companies are taking different positions, but one thing is constant. Because of such a flux and because of all this diverse and varied sort of an environment we see, we need to focus on skilling more than ever because we don't know where the dust will settle, like I said, right? So, and the other thing we know, and most research is telling us, including the LinkedIn report, that the new generation is looking for organizations that invest long-term in their careers and skilling. It's almost an employee value proposition now, bigger than ever. And therefore, I think it's the right thing to do. And that's why it's so critical.
Samir, I know you've been nodding all along. And of course, I'm just coming to you for the most amazing data numbers. So over to you.
As far as data is concerned, look, obviously skills are changing so rapidly. We know that. The question also is why this is happening. And we believe there are two things which are happening. There's a dual disruption. One is because of the pandemic. We've been talking about the great reshuffle. Employees seem to be on this merry-go-round, moving from one place to another. And then there is digital transformation, which is really reshaping the skills that are required to execute against your business priorities. The good news is that L&D professionals have taken cognizance of this. And according to our latest report, 46% of L&D professionals have taken cognizance of this and have put it on the top of their priority list. They've also told us that 49% of execs believe that the skills that their employees have today are not enough to sustain their business growth.
Absolutely. I think that is a beautiful context setting, Samir and Sumit, of course. We've taken cognizance of what's happening. We've got an insight of what's going to change. And that's the beauty of these conversations. Now, once again, Samir, I'm going to begin with you this one. Another level of what we are anticipating is that internal mobility is redefining the current and future state of hiring, employee retention, and experience. What would your take on be if if I ask you that, how do you see it coming through?
What you're saying is so true. And if you ask me, companies today have understood this build versus buy equation, right? And what this really means is that skilling your own employees is not just helping you to solve for cost per hire or time to hire, it's also helping you elevate your employee experience. In fact, our studies tell us that companies that have a best-in-class internal mobility platform or program are able to retain their employees for about 5.4 years. That is 2x of companies that are not so good at it.
I love where you've taken this conversation to that build versus buy. I think this is one of those paradoxes that a lot of leaders are trying to solve. And why not take the opportunity to hear from the man himself? So Sumit, I'm coming to you. What are your 2 cents going to be on this one?
Now, build versus buy, this ratio has evolved over time, basis the business strategy of various organizations. But the entire mix of internal employee versus external is now a big shift, just because basic skills that you used to have earlier are now becoming commodity. The skill level expected at a common minimum level is going up due to the digital coming in most jobs. Your awareness on things and the kind of jobs we are doing are elevating. The basic jobs are automated or will get automated. Now, as the jobs and skills become more and more, or less and less commoditized rather, the value of existing people and what they're able to do in their roles becomes higher, because it takes more skills, more time to get them ready. So therefore, internal mobility, helping those guys move along in their career and help them come up the value curve in a very planned manner, is the call to action for most of us learning leaders now.
I'm going to move to the next direction. And of course, we're talking so much about it. How can we let go of the digital skills? So let me just ask Sumit, I'm going to come with you on, first, the digital skills and leadership training programs have now taken a significant portion of a large scale skill strategy. So I want to understand that how can L&D leaders achieve such strategic large scale upskilling, reskilling goals, and of course, speed up the overall efforts. And maybe if we can just try and understand that how can tools and platforms help in this journey?
Therefore, what I would say is it's extremely relevant for every learning leader to look at the organization they are part of, look at and examine closely your business strategy and agenda, and figure out what are the most relevant digital skills that your employees need, right? I think now the term like technology quotient, much like EQ, TQ, it's become relevant, and organizations are looking at basic level of awareness of digital. Do you even know what AI means? Do you know what ML is? Do you know there could be a bot working next to you as a human? And
Samir, I'm going to come to you. What would you want to share with our audience?
Let me talk about something fundamental, right? Because ultimately it's about improving efficiency. But what's even more important is how is it that you can integrate it, and not just integrate it, but create a personalized experience where your employees can actually discover the merits out of this content, right? Or discover what this content really is, right? So that piece is very important. The second element is community. Now, when it comes to learning, of course, people learn from people, but people also learn with people. And creating those social experiences is very important. Now, in your typical instructor-led training formats, those offline trainings, there was still that element of that. But when you scale, you have to deploy more digital programs. How is it that you bring about this community aspect is critical. And the third element, which probably is the most important, is outcomes. Now, from an organization perspective, these outcomes are closing the skill gaps that we just spoke about. From an employee's perspective, it is really about, hey, I've learned so much. Now, how do I get that bigger, better job, right? So how do you solve for internal mobility, therefore, becomes very, very important. From a technology perspective, of course, LXPs are evolving and they're trying to solve some of these things. But to Sumit's point, very, very important to get the fundamentals right, really understand what your business needs, and then move from there.
Move to them. Absolutely. So I love how we are moving from a maze to an amazing takeaway. Thank you so much for that, Samir. And of course, you've touched upon the aspect of closing the critical skills gap. And that brings me to my next question very quickly. A lot has already been spoken about it, that how important it is that a tailored path-based learning journeys are to close the critical skills gap. So is that an option? Is that doable? I would love to understand. And let me begin with you only, Samir, on this one.
Sure. So context drives behavior. I'll repeat that. Context drives behavior. So you have to create those contextual learning experiences for your employees. And when it comes to closing skill gaps, right? Nurturing a learning environment creating that environment where there is full learning and culture of learning, all that is great. But if you were to just think about it in a real life situation, let's say I'm an employee, I want to be a data scientist. What will you tell me? Will you ask me to go to the learning portal, figure out what I need to do, show 100 hours of learning and get the data scientist job?
Yeah.
Or will you create like a structured learning journey for me? And pretty much I'll rest my case there, because you have to create that context around learning. Unless you do that, it's going to be a maze. You're going to be back to the maze from this amazing.
Absolutely. And context drives behavior. I think this is going to be one of the taglines for this episode. Sumit, I'm coming to you. What is your take on this?
Let's say the data scientist job, or in my company, for example, we've got banking, healthcare, insurance, utilities, different industries and different roles and job types, therefore, right? So if you create communities around these domains, push bites of learning, wisdom from SMEs, experts all the time, and build it in the flow of work, is where I think the learning journeys are headed. So Sumit should get my domain and my aspiration related bites fed to me all the time, and it's possible with some of these LXPs that are in play. Need to choose the right platforms, need to build the right content environment and the right communities.
And the right communities. Of course, I think the secret sauce has just been let out. Our audience has definitely taken a note of it. And we're running out of time. But again, like I promised, this is going to be one amazing episode that we've created for you. And none of these coffee conversations are complete without the rapid fire, without a hamper. So let me just go to Sumit first. Sumit, this is going to be a quick round of rapid fire for you and Samir, of course. The first question coming your way. Just define your reskilling agenda in one sentence.
It's a toughie, but I would say, to what I was saying earlier, to me, that is a bridge between the business charter and an employee aspiration. That's the learning agenda.
Amazing.
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge, and that is so amazingly put together. I love it. We've talked about the maze, we've talked about the secret sauce, we've talked about what are those top ingredients that definitely need to come together. And Samir, I'm going to come to you now. The top 3 skills that every L&D professional must possess to build a future-ready organization.
Top 3 skills. Well, I think the first one is that it's important to align your learning programs to business impact.
Yeah.
Sumit kind of spoke about that, but you can't be running that in silos. So that's one. Second, it's important to become more cross-functional. We spoke about how connecting the dots between hiring, employee experience, retention, all of that is very important. And unless you become cross-functional, you're never going to execute against it. And number 3 is you really need to learn how to ask for more budget. And by the way, our L&D professionals are telling us that they're getting more budgets this year. And also really be able to deploy that budget wisely.
Great. And I am +1, +2, +3 on that. This is absolutely amazing. What an energy, and what have been these learnings today. And can I just say, what a lightning conversation right in the middle of the day. Thank you so much. I hope our audience definitely enjoyed it. Thank you, Sumit and Samir, for being so candid, so spontaneous, and so candid in a way that you've presented everything to our audience today. So nothing beats this energy of this conversation. Thank you once again. And as I always love to kind of wrap up my session with a quote, hoping for a better tomorrow, I'm going to quote Eleanor Roosevelt today: "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." I think that is pretty much the essence of these 2 leaders who came on board for this amazing and yet insightful conversation. I'm going to take your leave with the promise to be back with another fantastic episode next week. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day ahead.
Thank you.